From Miller Waldrop Studios, this is Campus Live.
What's up, Campus Live fans? It's Logan here in the Miller Waldrop Studios for another episode of the Guns Blazin podcast. I'm your host, Logan, with my co-host, Lane. As always, Lane, big bounce-back win for the Red Raiders this week as they took down Oklahoma State. Initial thoughts, let me hear it.
Yeah, we bounced back. I would say, I don't know if we played as well as I thought we were going to, but, we did win 42-0. It's hard to complain about winning 42-0. And, how about starting off the game, Jacoby Williams with an amazing kick return, 99 yards that started off this game. And actually, a new feature we have this week on the Guns Blazin podcast, we actually have the play right in the background here that we'll pull up. And, Jacoby this year, he's had many instances where he's been close to returning punts and kick returns for touchdowns, but this one broke that tackle, and he finally he outruns that kicker.
That kicker's
Logan.
not catching him.
He's not no chance, and as you can see, waltzes into the end zone. But what a play by Jacoby, and I would say besides that, our special teams they played well, obviously, and then Oliver Miles, he blocks a punt, sets up Jacoby actually scoring again on the pass from Will Hammond. But there were some things that we'll talk about in this game, that weren't the best. Logan, what were your thoughts originally after watching this game?
Yeah, I had some mixed feelings about this game. Overall, I thought it was a great start. We saw the play there. You saw him break the tackle. Jacoby in the post-game interview said as soon as he passed the kicker, he knew that he was going to score. I'm pretty sure everybody in that stadium knew he was going to score when he saw just him and the kicker. But Jacoby looked great to start the game. 2 plays, 2 touchdowns. You look at his stats, he only had 10 rushing yards, but he had 2 touchdowns, caught one through the air, and then you get 99 yards. I feel like the defense, as always, we talked about them constantly, played superb, saw great games from pretty much everybody across the board on the defensive side of the football. I think one guy that stood out big time was Cole Wazicki. Big-time plays in the run game and the short pass game, big-time tackles. But the offense, it's a little questionable going into one of the bigger matchups we're going to get into here, pretty much what the definition of a trap game is going to be this coming week. We'll talk way more about that here in a little bit. I think my initial thought was we were sluggish on offense. We were set up by, of course, the punt block like you talked about. I think that especially with Will, going out late in that first half, not being able to come back. Obviously, we learned now that he has a torn ACL and is out for the season and into next season. There's a lot of question marks. But one bright side is you get QB1 back this week.
Absolutely. And, when we're breaking down this game, there was a lot of positives. It may sound like we're kind of being negative right now. I think we can get through the negatives first. I had a little list that I wanted to go to break down. Like you said, the offense, it did struggle. Oklahoma State actually ended up rushing the ball for more than we did, and which is really surprising. I mean, you see a game that's 42-0, you probably thought, man, our offense probably had 500 yards and, had 300 yards rushing or whatever it was, but we actually only had 88 yards rushing. And then, of course, Will Hammond went down, which, that sucked, but you probably thought, once again, like seeing the score 42-0, like offense was amazing, but set up by an amazing kick return by Jacoby, and then
arguably the play of the game.
Yeah, the punt block, and then obviously Jacob Rodriguez. What an amazing play he made on the defensive side, and we actually have that play pulled up right here as well. And he's had such an amazing season. I mean, this guy should absolutely be in every Heisman talk. Just strips the ball away from him.
Just manhandled that running back. Trying to spin out, make couple more yards, was the biggest mistake.
And this was at a point in the game, too, where Will had just fumbled and 21-0. Oklahoma State was actually on our side of the field, their first probably decent drive of the game. And Jacob completely turned the game on its head on that play, that was a great play. That's not a negative at all. That was a positive. But our offense basically effectively only scored 21 points versus so far this year the worst Power 4 team in the whole entire country as far as statistics go. And then the kicking game wasn't the best. We missed a field goal and an extra point. Was not the best game all around this year. I think even Coach McGuire would tell you that, and all the other coaches as well. But the positives, Logan, our defense just continues to absolutely dominate, pitching our first shutout since 2005 against a Big 12 opponent. What did you think about our defense?
Oh gosh, it's like it sounds like a broken record at this point.
Yeah.
That defensive line is amazing, and they weren't even the story of this game. The linebackers were amazing. You saw that play by J-Rod. That is extraordinary job there of making a game-changing play, but they did it on all aspects on defense. Like I was talking, Cole Wasinski, Bryce Pollock, really solidifying himself as arguably the best corner in the Big 12 Conference right now, graded out as the highest corner. He's been amazing. I think it's just something that, you got a bunch of guys on the defensive side of football with a lot of experience, and they know what it takes now. They're back against the wall every single week. And when you get a quarterback, you're down to your third-string quarterback, that puts a lot of pressure on the defense, but they ultimately stepped up to the challenge again, pitching a shutout, something you don't see very often.
Yeah, and I think, besides the defense, the other great positive was seeing Mitch Griffiths actually get real run in a Big 12 opponent game. And he came in and he played really well, actually. I mean, he was 9 of 13 for 179. He had 2 touchdowns, 1 passing and 1 throwing. And you heard this whole offseason. Coach McGuire would talk about Mitch all the time. We never really expected to see him play at all this year. Guy was laying concrete last year. Now he's playing
meaningful football for the Texas Tech Red Raiders.
Absolutely, and now he's going to be a huge part of this team. I mean, hopefully we don't have to, see him too much where he's the only quarterback. God forbid if Barron got hurt again. Obviously we want Barron to stay healthy and stay QB1 obviously the rest of the year, but it's good to know that Mitch is just another serviceable guy that we can have out there. And I thought he looked really well, Logan. What was your thoughts on seeing Mitch?
He was great in what his role was supposed to be.
Yeah.
He knew his role. Coach McGuire's talked about it all offseason. You see a guy who had started meaningful games at Wake Forest in the past in the ACC come in and take a third-string quarterback job. You don't always see the guys know their role and really embrace it. He has. He came in on an unfortunate spot. But how about that ball down the sideline to Caleb Douglas? That ball was in stride. Beautiful deep ball he threw. A couple of really good ones. Caleb Douglas got one knocked away from him down the right sideline. I think that he was just great in his role. And like you said, to have a guy as your third-string quarterback that can go in and you're not like, oh, man, like this is going to go bad. He can manage us through. I think that's something we got to see is we got to see some of those playmakers on the outside make a little bit more plays. Saw a lot of drops. That's one of the negatives I saw. A lot of drops. A touchdown drop from Reggie Virgil. A couple across the middle from Caleb Douglas. We saw some, and those are big plays in a game that's a lot closer, like possibly this week, especially in 2 weeks when we come back home. Those are plays that have to be made. I think a guy that really you saw a lot and you should be excited about, Micah Hudson. Coming in late in the game, making some big-time plays, 2 catches, 42 yards. I mean, that's great to see this guy really embrace a new role. 5-star last season, ups and downs, transferred out, went to A&M, comes back, finally gets a little bit of runtime with no Terrence Carter. With Terrence Carter expected to be back, we would expect to see less of him. But got to see more plays from the playmakers outside of just the running backs.
Yeah, maybe maybe it's a situation where which Reggie and Caleb they've had good years, but maybe it's a situation where if you keep seeing drops like that, maybe Micah has a game where you see him have the majority of the snaps at either the slot or the X position, and you see him have a really good game, and maybe it's his job to lose.
Right.
I mean, even though it was at the end of the game, obviously, but he made 2 great catches.
No, they look great. He looked the part. That's what we expected from him coming in. We saw the catch against Baylor last year, brought everybody in. It was like, oh man, this is the guy. Now we got another glimpse of it. I would expect to see a little bit more from him, even with the return of Terrence Carter. But like you said, I would love to see them move Reggie inside a little more and maybe less of Terrence Carter in the slot, but let him play out of the natural tight end spot, but still run routes out of it. Now you got 2 dynamic guys in Terrence Carter and Reggie Virgil across the middle. Good luck.
Yeah, and man, I think having Terrence back this week, I think you see obviously with Barron out, which Will has had a good year, and he has come in some very difficult spots, especially obviously against Utah. Came in and absolutely diced them open, and we won. But You did see him struggle a little bit against Arizona State, and I think you saw him struggle against Kansas some too. Obviously he had the 2 touchdowns with his legs, but even this week too, I mean, I know he ended up throwing a touchdown, but unfortunately before he got hurt, I think the offense, like we talked about, was just stagnant. And I think having Barron back obviously is a big deal, but Terrence Carter coming back so far this year when he's playing, he's the highest graded tight end for run blocking. That's so which we've seen our running game kind of disappear when Terrence has been out these past couple weeks. Having him back in the running game alongside our offensive line, which is graded out as one of the best offensive lines in the country this year, I think that's something that is going to be so vital to win this game this week, because as we transition into talking about Kansas State this week, this game has scared me all year long, Logan. And I know we've talked about it off camera, a little bit on camera, but this is the game really I've had circled on my calendar all year that it would point to a sign that this team is really different than any other team in the history of Texas Tech, maybe besides the last time we actually went to Manhattan and beat a Kansas State team in the 2008 team, which was an amazing team as well. Logan, what are your initial thoughts on us playing Kansas State as we move on from Oklahoma State?
We talked about this a little last week. You asked me my opinion then, and it's going to be a little different than what it is now. Last week I had no worries, no worries at all. Thought we would go in and play really well. I thought we would dominate Oklahoma State. Scoreboard-wise, we did. Watching the game in person, not so much. I think that it's going to be a tough one. It's a tough place to win. We have not won there, like you said, in a very, very long time. And they have guys that have history of beating us. Avery Johnson in Lubbock, Texas, a couple of years ago, put on a show running the football. Totally different defense now, I get that. It's just that thought in our minds of running through of, is this the same? Will this happen again? Please don't happen again.
It's the PTSD of a Texas
Tech fan.
Exactly.
Being a Texas Tech fan.
Yeah.
And then also the reflection of 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
The last trap game that we had on our schedule against a preseason very good team. Kansas State, preseason really good. Struggled the first 4 weeks. They played much better, won 3 of their last 4. Should have beat Baylor, should have won their last 4. It's a game that scares me, and it's a game where Matt Wells has nothing to lose. And he has something to prove
Absolutely.
to Texas Tech. Arguably, again, I think Texas Tech pulls out the victory. We'll talk about our predictions and stuff of that later in the show as well as later in the week. But I think Matt Wells is going to play some tricks on them. They're going to run some plays out of the box. They're going to be very aggressive. But this defense I trust more than probably I've trusted any position outside in any sport outside of maybe like Nigel Kennedy in the softball field. But they are about as legit as it gets in Texas Tech sports. So I expect them to play really well. But now it's how healthy is Barron Morton?
Yeah, and I think like you spoke on, Kansas State really should be 5-3. They've lost they've won their past 3 out of 4, but really should be on a 4-game winning streak. But what's crazy is they've actually, even though they've lost 4 games, they've only lost them by a total of 14 points.
14 points.
So you could really make an argument that they could be 8-0. And this, I mean,
this is a totally different game.
Yeah, but obviously, they're not, and you can't say if and what if, but this is not your typical 4-4 team at all. This is Chris Kleinman is a great head coach. He always plays us tough. Kansas State in general always plays us tough. Forget even winning in Manhattan since 2008. We haven't just beat Kansas State straight up since 2015. So this is going to be a very tough game. I would say Avery Johnson is playing the best football he's played as a collegiate football player right now. Even Chris Kleinman, their head coach in their press conference this past week, said the same thing. He thought Avery played his best game of his whole career against Kansas. And they actually beat them by the same exact score that we beat them, 42-17. And Kansas State was on the road in that game. And they're really good at forcing turnovers. They have a really good linebacker unit, and they always tend to have a really good secondary just for some reason. I don't know, Chris Kleinman's just a great coach for the secondary. But like you said, Matt Wells going against his old team. I know he does not have very much.
I think it's mutual.
Yeah,
I think it's mutual.
Yeah, he does not have very much love lost for the city of Lubbock and Texas Tech in general. He's going to be motivated, and we both have our opinions on him as a coach, but he's still a guy that has weapons on that side of the football, and he has weapons, like we said, that have beat us in the past, but obviously a way different defense, one of the best defenses in the whole entire country. But Jace Brown on the outside, one of the best receivers in the whole entire country. He's a great receiver, going to be a top pick. Not as good as Jordan Tyson, and I would say obviously not as dynamic as a thrower, Avery Johnson, as Sam Levitt. It's kind of like the light version.
It's like the light.
But the trade-off is Avery is better with his legs than Sam, and I don't know. It's going to be really interesting. They're not going to have Dylan Edwards again, which is a big deal.
That's a big one. That's a big one.
Big deal. And I don't know. What do you think? How do you think our offense shows up in this environment, Logan?
PFF grades their defensive line as one of the worst.
Yeah.
They are terrible against the run. They are 106th in yards before contact at that level. But their linebackers are elite.
Yeah.
So it's a give and take. Can they hold Jacoby and Cam to 4 or 5 yards a carry, or do we average 9 or 10? That's going to be a big difference. Take the pressure off Barron, because we know he's not going to be 100%. There's no way.
Yeah.
And if he's focused, they're going to make him throw the football, though. In my opinion, I feel like that's the way it's going to play. He's not great on the road in his career here, but they don't generate a lot of pressure either up front. So it's a give and take. Barron's really good when he's not pressured. He's not as great on the road, but when he's pressured and on the road, recipe for disaster for Texas Tech fans. I think that this game is just a pick your poison. Does Mac Leftwich look to just pound the rock over and over and over against, we have one of the best run-blocking graded offensive lines. It's a recipe for success. It's, can we get to the second level? I think that's the ultimate question. Can they block those linebackers, or do they get free reign on the running backs? I still expect Texas Tech to win the game overall. I really do.
Yeah, and we'll obviously get into more in-depth breakdown and more of our true predictions on Saturday at our live show at Golf Suites, which make sure y'all tune into that, and if not, come join us if you're in the Lubbock area for that. But yeah, talking about Kansas State's defensive line, like you said, 109th overall, and just how they've played this year, and then 106 in run stop grade according to PFF. I think our offensive line is the deciding factor in this game. 100%. If they perform well, if Terrence Carter comes back and blocks the way he has all year long, I think there's a scenario where you could see similarly in the Utah game where we just get away from them and blow them out in the end. But if that doesn't occur, this is going to be a really close game. And we'll give our predictions more on Saturday. But man, I'm nervous. I'm nervous. What?
Yeah. I'm nervous because of what's coming the week after.
Yeah.
That's why I'm nervous.
Yeah.
All the attention in Lubbock, Texas right now is on the BYU game. It's anything everybody's talking about. It's like we don't even play this week.
Yeah.
Like I haven't heard one thing about Kansas State all week besides us talking about it right now. But it's BYU.
Yeah, all you've heard is...
And guess what? They don't play, so they're okay.
Yeah, all you've heard is, College game day potentially might be here.
Mahomes, Andy Reid, maybe Taylor Swift.
Yeah. But, man, I'm really excited. But as we transition from Texas Tech and kind of give a look around the country, man, Logan, it seems like every single week we come on this show and there's another huge job opening. Brian Kelly officially fired at LSU. We talked about it last week. We saw it coming. We said if he loses this game at home against A&M, and they didn't just lose, they got blown out. Wasn't even close. And they made that decision. And, for Coach Kelly, you've seen all the different reports that have come out since the firing, but how can you squander a job like that? It's arguably a top 3 job in the country, top 5, wherever you want to place it. We talked about it on 2 podcasts ago about every coach there this past 25 years, whether it's been Les Miles or Ed Orgeron, has literally won a national championship there. That is how sources rich that LSU is, and Brian Kelly could barely even win 10 games there. Logan, what's your thoughts on that whole deal that went down?
I think we talked about it. You said we've talked about it for like 3 weeks. It feels like every episode of the podcast we brought up LSU. It didn't fit.
Yeah,
I think that's the cut and dry thing. It just did not fit. You had two very polar opposite mentalities. He did not have the Louisiana mentality, and it didn't work. You had a ton of talent. I mean, Garrett Nussmeier was seen as number 1 pick at the beginning of the season. He's been hurt, hasn't found his rhythm, not been good. Caden Durham, 5-star running back, has not produced. I mean, you have guys all over the place. I mean, Brian Kelly has had Malik Neighbors, just nothing with him.
Yeah.
Jaden Daniels didn't do anything with him. Like, these are guys that are, a Heisman Trophy winner, and you barely won with him.
What, 9 games?
9 games.
Yeah.
Like, there was something wrong there. Joe Sloan also gets fired. A lot of butting heads there. Behind the scenes reports say Frank Wilson will take over as the interim, former UTSA head coach, now will take over as the interim role. I just think that I don't know where you go now. You're now the number 1 job. You are.
Yeah.
You're better than Florida, but you're close enough with Florida. Florida might have to pay a little more. I just don't know where you go, because is Ole Miss really that much worse of a job than LSU at this point for Lane Kiffin to say, I'll ditch whatever I've built at Ole Miss? Perennial powerhouse. They haven't really got over the top yet, but they're on their way to. Is that something that he's willing to do? And Nick Saban today didn't think so.
Yeah, and I think you're already seeing, Lane talk about it. He said he'll never make a decision based off money. I think he truly wants to build a legacy at Ole Miss, and it also, I think, helps to his kids go there. His son is a starting quarterback at Oxford High School out there. They love Oxford. I just don't. To be honest, I don't see him leaving.
Now, does he leave? His daughter is dating the linebacker at
Weeks.
LSU.
Yeah.
Is that something that plays into it? I don't know. I mean,
Yeah.
it could be. It could be a recruiting factor for LSU. The problem is, he says he's not going to do it for money, but if they hand him a check for $20 million a year, reports are they want to go 25 for Nick Saban. How do you turn that down? I'm sorry. You could say all day long it ain't about the money, but it's a lot of money. You're going to get a raise at Ole Miss, but what are you going to get? 12 and a half, maybe, if you're lucky. I just think it's a lot of money, a lot of resources, unlimited. I mean, I think it's going to be very, very interesting. One thing I will note, though, the path that Ole Miss is on is for a college football playoff berth,
Right.
which means that he would not take a job until after the transfer portal opens. That's also another big decision that Florida and LSU have to make because of the players not only leaving, but you're going to have to recruit a whole team to come back in. And so if they're already committed and you're behind because you're waiting on Lane Kiffin, then he tells you no, then you're in deep trouble.
Yeah, and not only bringing guys in, think of all the guys he's going to have to try to retain. I mean, obviously Caden Durham and Harlan Berry are 2 of the most talented running backs in the whole entire country, and you already know there's teams already poaching them right now.
Right. As soon as Brian Kelly got, they were already poaching before, but as soon as Kelly's gone, they're on speed dial for half of America.
And they have a great defense this year too. A bunch of guys that are young on that defense. That, I mean, the way agents move in today's college football world, I can guarantee you these guys are being shopped right now. To
100%.
And without a concrete solution, LSU, if Lane were to go to LSU, I think that would be the best scenario, best landing for him besides Ole Miss. I think Florida right now is more dysfunctional than LSU, and LSU just has so much recent success. But, man, I don't know where these teams go if Lane stays put or he, say he goes to LSU. What does Florida and Penn State do? I mean,
what does Ole Miss do?
And then what does Ole Miss do?
You're in trouble. You lose Lane Kiffin, you're in trouble.
Absolutely. And I just there's so many positions opening. It's the craziest coaching carousel we probably are already ever seen, especially midseason. There's arguably 3 top 15 jobs open in the country right now, and we have no idea who the candidates are except for Lane Kiffin is wanted by all 3, or basically all 3 of them.
Yeah, pretty much everybody.
So,
I mean, it's starting to look like Jace Franklin's going to have a job next year.
Yeah.
and he's not that awful. He got fired from Penn State, but I mean he's going to win you 10 games, and most of those schools will take 10 games.
Absolutely.
Penn State might be like, maybe we shouldn't have fired him because at the time you looked like you could get who you wanted. Now you're out in Florida, you're at LSU, and Auburn looks like it might be opening up. Some of these jobs are ahead of Penn State now. I don't know. We'll see what happens, but
yeah, and you've seen those reports maybe of Arkansas looking at James Franklin. I think that would be a good hire for them, and it would get them obviously more relevant than they are now. But man, I think it's going to be a crazy coaching carousel. And
there's not even any it's hard to even say or explain how insane this is because it's really never happened like this. You don't see arguably 2 top 10, if not 2 top 5 jobs open at the same time. Reports of Coach Sark heading the NFL. Now you're looking at, could you imagine if Texas opens up in this? Then they're number one. Arguably number one. They'll get whoever. I think a name to look out for, highly unlikely, but I think Joe Brady at LSU, bringing him back would really spark the offensive mindset of LSU. They already know what to expect from them. He led arguably the best offense of college football history.
Yeah.
He's a name to look out for. I do think he's going to hold out for an NFL job. But if you can pull, it's basically the NFL now in college. You're playing the same games. You're playing free agency. So it's going to be very interesting, I think. I think it's going to be crazy.
Yeah, and speaking on that game, LSU, the reason why, there's multiple reasons, but the nail in the coffin, Texas A&M
shellacking.
Absolutely dominated LSU 49-25 on the road. And you've seen the videos, basically took over Death Valley. You saw Marcel Reed, what a game he played. And we have one of his
this one right here.
Yeah, his first touchdown of the game right here. The guy is he's so dynamic.
This is electric.
He reminds me, he has, which I'm not going to throw this.
Goodbye.
Yeah, this comparison crazy, but he gives a little bit of Lamar Jackson style of play. The way that he can dominate with a game with his legs like that and also be extremely effective in the passing game.
Yeah. He has arguably, again, probably the best duo at receiver.
Oh, yeah.
He's got Mario Craver and Casey Concepcion, which, Casey Concepcion, of course, big-time play. Do we have that up right now again? Yeah, we do right here.
Here we go, yeah. Look at this little cut right here.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah,
Flip the game on his head.
Yeah, him and Craver, just the way that the job that Mike Elko has done at A&M, they've had the resources forever. It was always about finding the right guy to lead them forward. You always see the jokes. Oh, they'd always start off 7-0 and then go 7-5 or 8-4. This team's different. They are really good, and I think they did such a good job in the portal, as well as obviously they're always good in high school recruiting. But bringing in Craver from Mississippi State and Casey Concepcion from NC State, these guys, the moves that they made, and also on defense, being led by Cassius Howell and Torian York, they have had some moments of lapse in the secondary, but their front seven has been absolutely dominant, Logan.
Yeah, they're a different team. They're a different team. And what's crazy, back in the search when they fired Jimbo, was everybody's turning them down.
Yeah.
They could not find anybody that wanted their job. Mike Elko said, I'm going to take your job.
Yeah.
And everybody in A&M or in College Station is like, oh, man, this isn't the hire we wanted. This doesn't look great. He obviously was really good before that, but it was it wasn't the sexiest hire. It wasn't the flashiest hire. Now anybody in A&M is like, we wanted him all along. It didn't sound like that at the time. But, again, big-time hire. It reminds me a lot of what Joey is seen in Lubbock.
Yeah.
At the time, no one really knew. He didn't have any head coaching experience. He was a head coach, but we didn't really know what Joey was. But as soon as he hit the field, put the players on the field, you saw the behind the scenes, you knew, okay, that's our guy. Same thing in College Station now. Mike Elko is a hero there, and like you said, he's done a great job in the portal. And it's just, you even think he had Micah Hudson.
Yeah.
Also, he left, but he had him there. He does another. They just reloaded the wide receiver group to help Marcel Reed. Now Marcel Reed looks like a Heisman contender.
What's crazy is too is they had 5-star Jerome Miles Jr. and he doesn't even play this. He tore his ACL and he was supposed to be starting with this group as well. And they've had so many guys just step up. Besides, it helps having maybe the best wide receiver duo in the whole entire country, but they also don't have Le'Veon Moss right now as well, and he's arguably the best running back in the whole entire SEC. And, man, they're going to be a tough out for the rest of this year.
It's crazy because it's lining up to have an undefeated Texas A&M heading to Austin, Texas to take on the Longhorns in what could be an elimination game for the Longhorns.
Yeah.
Like, it could be, or it could be an elimination game for A&M to get into the SEC championship game. That's going to be electric. If, obviously, they can handle business. We'll talk about Texas here in a second and their huge matchup this week. But A&M just looks like a far superior team in the SEC, and that's even saying something. Alabama almost had a slip-up this week. They come back and get a late touchdown, a fumble, then they score another touchdown to win it. They don't look invincible. They look really good, and I think that's going to be a lot of people don't see A&M. Hadn't been talking about A&M in the SEC championship game. Now it looks like it's inevitable.
Yeah, and I think as we move on in the SEC, all these teams one week look. I think the top 5 or 6 one week can look. Maybe they could win the SEC, and then the next week, like Texas, they go on the road at Kentucky. They struggle last week at Mississippi State. This past week,
should have lost both of them.
Should have lost both of them. Down 17 with 10 minutes left. Really, one of the most insane comebacks you'll ever see. I think one of the craziest stats in this game, there had been 492 FBS teams up by 17 points with 10 minutes left, and they were undefeated before Texas came back against Mississippi State. So if you are a Mississippi State fan, that's brutal.
Yeah, and Mississippi State started the season off really well.
Yeah.
Upset Arizona State on that late touchdown and broken coverage. But the play we're about to show is just the dagger into the hearts of Starkville, Mississippi.
Yeah, Ryan Niblett here, one of the best punt returns I've ever seen. The guy just continues to make plays in the punt return game. I mean, OU had a punt return that flipped that game on its head. Had a big one against Kentucky too, and just breaking tackles.
Like 4 missed tackles
Yeah.
on that play.
Great
and then
block
outruns
too.
the rest.
And Starkville was this game ended when that play happened. I mean, all the energy was out of that building that you'd seen the whole entire game. And man, that Arch Manning played his best game all year. He looked like the guy that had been hyped up all offseason, about 350 yards, 3 passing touchdowns. The O-line for them has struggled bad all year long.
Still look bad.
But Arch, he did get hurt in overtime, but Arch willed them to that victory. I'll give him that credit. And, man, it's just another crazy week in college football. Yeah.
Crazy thing, Texas's defense looked, I don't even know. Like, there are no words for that. Like, they were getting diced up by Blake Shapen. Former Baylor quarterback diced them up. Like, I don't even know what happened. It did not look like the same team that we've watched in the past. It looked like a recap of Florida at the beginning of the Florida game. But for an entire game almost, I mean, it's not like the defense is the one that brought them back in this game. They get the huge stop in overtime, but I don't even know if I could contribute that to them. I mean, Mississippi State, you cannot get 3 false starts in a row in overtime.
Yeah.
You just can't do it. And it was a lack. I mean, it looks like Jeff Lebby didn't know what was going on in that fourth quarter. It's like, was he even there? Like, I don't even know what he's doing. I mean, announcer said in overtime after the second down play, you need a timeout.
Yeah.
Did not call a timeout until the third false start penalty when now it's 4th and 20.
Yeah.
Like, what are you going to do on 4th and 20? Then you get sack, fumble. Now they recovered it at like the 40-yard line on the other side. It's just an epic collapse. Like you said, they were undefeated. FBS team's undefeated. You can't give up 17 points
No.
in 10 minutes. I mean, that's almost improbable.
Crazy.
You could literally just run the ball 3 times and punt and probably have still won that game.
Yeah.
I don't know what's going on there. Starkville's in shambles.
It is, yeah. And staying in the SEC, speaking of Lane Kiffin, Ole Miss went on the road and had a huge victory over OU, 34-26. They had a great bounce back win after they blew their lead against Georgia. And this game kind of had a similar feel. Ole Miss was up big again, and OU storms back, almost ties the game. And I was really impressed by Ole Miss in the fourth quarter, especially Trinidad Chambliss. He made some great plays alongside his running back, Kwan Lacey. And, man, I think Ole Miss, look at the rest of their schedule. I think they might have secured themselves a playoff spot winning at OU this past week.
Yeah, I agree. I just think that, it seems like we talked about this in the past, I think last episode last week, about Ole Miss not being able to finish. They hadn't been able to finish games. The Georgia game, for example, getting, up big, up late, give up the lead, and then Georgia runs away. Today, this past weekend, they finished. And you're right, they look really good in the fourth quarter. Trinidad Chambliss, man, going from D2 to here to the SEC football and really playing great. He's been great. That just tells you the scouting and the group that Lane Kiffin has at Ole Miss, be able to identify these quarterbacks. He was great, to replace Jackson Dart with Trinidad Chambliss, a little bit of a different scheme. You got a flamethrower in Jackson Dart. Now you got a guy that can do it all, especially with his legs. He's electric. I just, I don't know where you go here for Oklahoma again. All the hype of the world. John Mateer coming over, looking like a Heisman, gets hurt, comes back way too soon, in my opinion.
Yeah.
He came back too soon. You get throttled by Texas, and now you can't seem to figure it out. You get a big win last week at South Carolina, and then you come here and you get you didn't really compete for a while. You had the comeback, but you didn't look very good for a majority of the game. I don't know where you go, and I don't know where Brent Venables goes either, because you ain't going to have another quarterback like John Mateer come in.
And their schedule the rest of the year just gets tougher. So OU might be one to watch. We talked about that a few weeks ago. We'll see how that unfolds. But moving back to the Big 12, Houston with a huge
I told you, Lane.
win.
I told you.
Yeah. Logan predicted it. He said would you say they'll win by 6?
6. 1 by 8.
Really, might as well be on the dot there.
I mean, I probably was kidding. I mean, I didn't watch it back, but I'm pretty sure I was kidding. There was no way I was ever gonna. But dang, they look good.
They did, and it just makes. Not only did it help us out in the standings, it helped us our resume out, because Houston is ranked now 7-1, and their only losses from us, and we dominated them. And man, Connor Wegman probably played the best game I've seen from him since he was in a big game at A&M, where he played Alabama or whoever they were playing. 312 all-purpose yards. He had over 100 yards rushing and over 200 yards passing with 3 touchdowns. And their defense completely shut down Arizona State without Jordan Tyson. And even they still had Sam Levitt, but I know they scored that touchdown late. That game really was like 24-9 with 3 minutes left. And man, how much better does our win versus them look?
We went into the week, one ranked opponent on our schedule. We only had Arizona State at the top 25. We had lost to them. They lose. We add 2 ranked wins to our schedule. Utah and now Houston. Houston's schedule, though, they could run the table.
Absolutely.
Obviously, we have the tiebreaker, huge tiebreaker for Texas Tech when it comes to things. Now we control our own destiny. With that loss to Arizona State, we're back in the driver's seat. I mean, watching Houston play, I think I text you, like, within the first quarter, I was like, dang, Houston looks good.
Yeah.
Like, they were dominating on the ground. They made enough plays through the air, and the defense just stifled them. It looked like a totally different Arizona State team. Without Jordan Tyson, that team, I don't know what they are. Sam Levitt, expected to miss this week against Iowa State, might be a free fall for him, and I don't think Sam Levitt's coming back to Arizona State.
Yeah, I think this year might get a little ugly for Arizona State the rest of this year, and which, kind of sucks for us because we played them at full strength, but sometimes that's just how your schedule rolls. But as we move on from last week and head into this week, there's some huge games this week. Starting off with probably the biggest game in the SEC this week. We were speaking on Texas and how well Arch played. Well, it looks like he's actually not even going to play this week. They're going to have Matthew Caldwell more than likely start this game. They're actually even still 2.5-point favorites, even though it looks like Arch isn't going to play. Even though Vandy, they snuck out that win versus Missouri this week. Missouri lost Bo Pribula in that game. Basically, we're playing a backup quarterback the whole time, and it took a late fumble from Missouri inside their own 10-yard line for Vandy to score late in that game, and then also a Hail Mary that was inches from
away.
tying the game. I think this is actually a scenario which we'll talk about this game more on Saturday. I think this is a scenario where actually you'll see Texas's defense bounce back and probably play maybe their most complete game as a team this year. Maybe not. Maybe you could see Vandy go in and absolutely take this over and push towards a bigger playoff spot. But I think Texas sits in a really good spot right here for this week.
Yeah, I think this is obviously every game for Texas is a must-win here on out. I just think that Texas, again, like you said, their defense has to bounce back. They can't play any worse than they played last week. And anybody in the world can think Diego Pavia looks like a Heisman candidate. But if you look at his statistical resume, it is not great. He has not thrown for more than 200 yards against any Power 4 team in the last 12 games. So you're looking at a guy who's going to play arguably the best defense he's faced so far. And I think you're just going to see Colin Simmons take this game over. He's a guy. He's a game wrecker. He took the game over in overtime. Against Mississippi State, a couple of a sack and then a forced incompletion. I don't know. I just think that Texas. You're right. Texas is in a great spot. I'm very interested to see how the quarterback play is for Texas. But I do think they're going to lean a little bit more on the run game. But they haven't ran the ball well in the last 2 games. So. Very interested, and Vanderbilt's got a really good run defense, not so great in the back end. I don't know. It's going to be it's a toss up for me. It really is. A 2.5-point spread. Texas at home, so theoretically on neutral field, Vandy's got a 1-point. They're a 1-point favorite, which is crazy. Preseason, this was a 21-point spread in favor of Texas. 3 touchdowns we have come down in the spread department. It's a magical season for Vanderbilt. If they can get through this one, they pretty much lock in probably a playoff berth. And if Texas loses this one, then they're out theoretically. I'm just very interested, to see how Pavia is able to play. He's going to have to make plays with his legs and extend plays and make some plays downfield.
Yeah, and another huge one. We were just talking about OU. They go on the road, which speaking on how tough their schedule is, on the road at Tennessee. Going to Neyland. Josh Heupel, he loves running it up on his old team. He played quarterback for, and even though Tennessee's defense has really struggled all year, as long as Heupel's their head coach, they're always going to have a top 5 offense in the country, and that seems to be the case again this year. Joey Aguilar's had a really good year, and the way that OU's offense has looked ever since Mateer has come back, you can see he is not healthy, and heading into another tough environment, he got really – Ole Miss's defense got after Mateer last week, and I just struggle to see OU going into Neyland and winning this game, Logan.
No, they're not going to win.
Yep.
No, they're not going to win. Tennessee's too explosive on offense, even for a good Oklahoma defense. Tennessee's too explosive, and their defense is going to make just enough plays with an injured John Mateer. They just can't run the football. Oklahoma can't run the football. Jaden Ott was a huge pickup in the offseason. He has not produced for them. Their offense is just not there.
Yeah.
And you thought, with Mateer bringing his OC with him, that it would flip things. Washington State was great last year on offense. They just once he got hurt, they have not been the same team.
Yeah, and I don't know. It's I was surprised to see this game was only 3.5-point favorite for Tennessee. I think
it should be like 8.
Yeah, I think Tennessee covers pretty easily, but on Saturday
probably won't. Now that we said that, now that we agreed, they probably won't.
Yeah. But biggest game in the Big 12 this week besides our game. I think a lot of people around the country would say
College game day.
Yeah, College game day. They're going to Utah. Cincy, man, they just keep on rolling, and Brendan Sorsby looks like one of the best quarterbacks in the whole entire country. His touchdown to interception ratio is 20-1, while he's also their 3rd leading rusher this year, and they have 2 really good running backs. But they will be missing their starting running back, Evan Pryor, and I think that's why you saw the line was already like 6.5. Now it's like 9 for Utah, which to me that's still a ton of points. But going on the road in that environment, the place is going to be rocking. Like you said, College game day is going to be there. What are your initial thoughts on Cincinnati going to Utah?
Cincinnati is overachieved, in my opinion. We always have one, right? Big 12 always has Arizona State last year, Cincinnati now, an overachiever. Now their schedule starts, though. They now play the beef of the schedule, starting with Utah. I don't know. I think Utah's elite. They've had some slip ups, they've had some injuries, but I think they're elite. And if I think they're expecting Devin Dampier back. Even the backup quarterback ran for days last week. I think they're expecting him back. The line is shifted high. I just think it's very hard to win at Utah. Texas Tech did against a fully healthy squad, which made us that's why Texas Tech went through the roof in expectations, because they went and won there. I just think that Cincinnati and Sorsby losing that running back, he's done amazing things, running the football, throwing the football. He's been great. I just don't think they have enough. And I think that John Daly, the not golfer, is going to have a big day this weekend. He played really well against Tech. He's going to have to get after Sorsby, and I think they do, and I think Dampier does just enough, and I think Wayshawn Parker is finally going to have a game where he looks like the Wayshawn Parker from last year. Those two have to be great, and I'm picking Utah.
Yeah. Moving on to probably the biggest game in the Big Ten this week. USC goes to Nebraska. USC is actually favored by 6.5 on the road at Nebraska. That's pretty crazy. I'm not going to lie. I didn't expect to see the line that high, but I think that the reason why it's so high, you saw it which Nebraska did beat Northwestern, but Matt Rule trying to block out all this Penn State noise, I think, is affecting their team, and it would not surprise me to go see USC go into Nebraska this week and win.
Yeah, I'm actually going to pick them to win.
Yeah.
We'll talk a lot more about pick'ems or whatever. I'm getting a little ahead of myself, but Matt Rule can't win a big game at Nebraska. He's won in the past at Baylor. He can't pull it out. They get ranked and they lose. And so right now you got a USC team who has played Notre Dame real tight. They played Illinois tight. Like, they're not they're a really good team, really good on offense. Mekhi Lemon's going to have a field day on Nebraska's defense. I just think that, you're right. The Penn State noise is getting to him, and he's going to probably end up at Penn State. If I had to guess, they are going to end up with him probably. And I just don't think they can win this game. I just don't.
Yeah. And then obviously our game, which, once again, we'll have our live show on Saturday. Once again, make sure to come out to Golf Suites or tune in on all of our social media platforms, Campus Live. And, is there any more initial thoughts you have about our game going to Kansas State this week, Logan?
I don't have anything about Kansas State really particularly, but I do have something I kind of want to discuss with you. Will Hammond now out for the season. Potentially, return date is June, estimated. How does Tech attack the portal? Now, didn't expect to have to.
Yeah.
Now, those DJ Lagway talks might get a little hotter on the realm. Mess to make down at UNT.
Texas, yeah.
I mean, could we see, or do we see them go after like an Indiana situation? You go get a really good senior for 1 year, but you got to do something now. Coach McGuire talked about it. We got to attack the portal.
I think we're going to attack. We will attack which unfortunately for Will, it's just
the way it happens.
It's just the way the college football world works, and Will is still going to have a chance to compete for the starting job. Don't get me wrong at all, but they're definitely going to bring in another, probably like you said, probably a senior, an older guy. Which thankfully, actually, Mitch Griffiths has another year. He won another year of eligibility, so he will be here again next year to be the second or third string quarterback. But I think you will definitely see an aggressive attack in the portal. And the way that all these coaching firings have happened, especially if we continue to see more, man, who knows what type of names will pop up in the portal at quarterback. And, man, I think it's going to be very interesting offseason.
This is highly unlikely. Highly unlikely. I'm going to throw a name out here. Sam Leavitt. Leaving Arizona State. Reports Kenny Dillingham might be out also, might be on his way to a big-time job. Don't think he's going to leave, but it doesn't look like Sam Leavitt's coming. He may go to the NFL. He might get out. But would that be something? Because Tech has the money to throw around with anybody in the country. do you see, or a big name? You see a big name enter the portal every year that just happens to come out of nowhere. Carson Beck last year came in late. I just think Tech has to be, now they don't have a choice anymore.
Yeah.
They don't have a choice anymore. They have to, and I'm just, you know what? I'm going to start some controversy here. I just like doing it. This is our show. Might as well. You know what? What if Arch Manning hits the portal after his horrible season at Texas? Could you see him coming to Lubbock with less pressure?
No,
Let me know.
I don't see that.
Got to start some controversy somehow, man. Got to keep this show going.
No, I mean, it would take Sark actually leaving to go to the NFL, but I don't see.
I don't want him anyway, but it's just it's a talking point.
Yeah, no, I don't see that happening. But it would be crazy. I mean, if he did for some reason enter the portal, if Sark left, but I don't think he's leaving. He's building something over at Tech. But I mean, that'd be the craziest offseason story by far if that were to somehow happen. But yeah, we've just talked about it with the coaching right now. I mean, I can't even imagine how many guys are getting poached right now. I mean, I think Lane Kiffin even talked about their freshman wide receiver Watkins Jr. had like his first big game against OU. He said that there was already 3 coaches that reached out to his agent from other schools that were already trying to poach him. And you know, Lane will speak on it. He does not care.
He has no filter.
He has no filter, and he will call those guys out. And I think that just speaks to our college football landscape right now. And man, it's going to be crazy.
Yeah, and you know, I can't even say anything because Texas Tech is right in that.
Yeah,
you know they're calling. They're calling some guys at LSU. We got guys
100%.
calling, and you know we'll see. It's going to have to be another big offseason for Tech. We got a lot of holes to fill. Something I can't wait to be a part of. But we got a lot of season ahead of us. A lot of aspirations. But I mean, you got anything else to add tonight?
Yeah, I mean we talked about, you know, maybe adding like a quick around the sports world little quick segment here. The World Series, I think this is one of the best World Series we have seen in years. And if y'all didn't stay tuned for that 18-inning game the other night, Toronto, they bounced back last night. I was very surprised. I'm really impressed with the way that the Blue Jays bounced back. But, man, how about that game the other night, Logan? 18 innings.
7 hours.
Yeah.
That's why they implemented the runner on second rule in the regular season, so we don't have to stay up for 7 hours every time. It was a heck of a game. Just could not. You saw some guys who had over 5 ERAs come out and throw shutdown innings. Will Klein for the Dodgers, 4 shutout innings. They were going to bring in Yoshinobu Yamamoto, who had just thrown a complete game shutout 2 days before. They had him warming up in the bullpen. You know, It's just it is a very, very entertaining series. I'm very interested to see how the viewership is because Blue Jays aren't a big, you know, seen as a huge market team in the MLB, but it's great. It's great for baseball. It really is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anything else? You got anything else?
You got anything in the NFL or?
Oh man, I haven't watched a lot of NFL. Mahomes back in the winning trail. He looks like the Mahomes of old, getting Rashid Rice back. Cowboys look, you know, pathetic last week. That's just saddening, actually. It really is. There's just a lot of things going on in the sports world, and it's fun to watch.
Yeah, we had that sports equinox the other night. All the 5 major sports in the United States were on the television. This is a great time to be a sports watcher around the world. So,
and that'll wrap things up for our episode here of the Guns Blazin podcast. Again, thanks for tuning in and watching. Make sure y'all stay on the lookout and watch our previous episodes on our YouTube channel as well as all our social media. Make sure y'all check us out this Saturday at Golf Suites, live on our Facebook page at 1:30. We'll be going live, all things Kansas State, as well as some news that probably happened during the day during that time. Who knows what's going to happen between now and Saturday, so make sure y'all tune in for that. And, you know, as always, wreck 'em.
Wreck 'em.
From Miller Waldrop Studios, this is Campus Live.